guys, welcome to day 20. Today I wanted to do a quick little video just on some general flexible dieting tips, making the most out of your macros, and meal planning using flexible dieting. So as I've mentioned to you in previous videos, I eat the same things essentially every day. I take my macros and make kind of a meal plan out of them. So I just wanted to go into a little bit of my, strategy that I've developed. And there's my dog. Hi, buddy. Do you macro count? No, you don't. You just eat everything that you're given. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight on how I plan out my meals, how I plan out my day, and how I personally implement flexible dieting and make it work for me. So first and foremost, I get a couple questions about this. The app that I use to track my macros, wow, Snapchat on front camera, hello. That was scary. But I do use MyFitnessPal. So this is what it looks like. This is really the only app I've ever used. Some people use My Macros Plus. I'm not really sure of many other tracking apps just because I have, sorry, I'm turning this on vibrate. But I have had a lot of success with MyFitnessPal. I'm familiar with the database. I'm familiar with just how it all works, so I stick to that one. So, who this video will be good for? Pretty much anyone. Whether you're new to flexible dieting and you really don't have any idea where to start, you have your macros but you're not really sure what to do with them. If you're a really busy person and you have a lot going on during the day, meal planning is going to be really essential for you because you don't have time to sit and make all of your meals at home each and every meal. And then also, if you have just another person this would be good for, if you've just undergone a change to your macros, whether it's an increase or a decrease, and you're trying to adjust to the new macros that you have and you're having some issues planning out, how to eat, what foods are going to fit your new numbers, that sort of thing. Hopefully this can help you as well. And then also anybody that just struggles with hitting their macros consistently on a daily basis. You often find yourself at the end of the day with a really awkward set of macros left because of poor planning earlier on in the day. Hopefully some of these tips will help you to better plan your day and to avoid having a poverty or just super awkward random meal at the end of the day. Tip number one that I have for you guys is to build a skeleton. So what I mean by this is have some go-to meals that are both palatable and satisfying to your hunger, and then I guess a third thing would be hitting different micronutrient and obviously macronutrient requirements. So for me, some of those meals would be my oats / cream of wheat that you guys see on the regular. That's a meal that is a great post-workout meal for me. I enjoy it. It tastes good. It keeps me full. And it helps with my iron requirements because of the cream of wheat, so that would be a good micro. And then also the fiber from the oat brand, so that hits 2 micro requirements. Wow. I dropped my sheet, sorry. And then another meal that I really have been enjoying lately is just some grilled chicken with asparagus and fish oil and some seasonings. The fish oil, we'll get into that later, but that is omega-3s are an important nutrient for all of us. And then obviously chicken for protein, and asparagus is a good fibrous veggie, and again, it helps keep me full. And then I also have that same but slightly tweaked oatmeal and cream of wheat combination meal at the end of the day. So those are just like examples of a couple meals that I have been eating quite regularly. But then also with building this skeleton, we all know that, well, if you're new to this, you might not know this, but people throw around the meal frequency idea. From a body composition standpoint, meal frequency, there isn't really any compelling data to support that eating 5 to 6 small meals a day does anything to stoke your metabolism or keep it firing or whatever. That's not really grounded in anything. So meal frequency is not necessarily going to help you from a body composition standpoint. Where it will help you is in terms of your hunger. So if you find that you're getting if you're getting hungry frequently, then maybe try, eating a couple more meals throughout the day, splitting your macros up into smaller meals so that you have just more opportunities to eat throughout the day. So, and then the last thing with meal frequency comes to your protein. Like I mentioned before, in terms of body composition, your meal frequency doesn't really do a whole lot, but protein timing in terms of muscle protein synthesis and getting the most out of your protein intake.
You might want to go ahead and screenshot this graphic, but if you take a look at it, if you compare the 8 feedings versus 4 feedings versus 2 feedings, the 4 bolus feedings of 20 grams of protein spread out throughout the day was shown to be optimal in terms of maxing out muscle protein synthesis. So if you spread your meals out to, 4+ meals per day and spread your protein out evenly throughout those, then that's going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of your protein intake.
So create meals that help fit that protein requirement, that help you spread out your protein throughout the day, and all that good stuff. So then with everything else, once you have these go-to skeleton meals, you can kind of fill in as you go. Like I said, I've been eating the exact same thing every day, but if you want to just have like, you know, 2 skeleton meals, say you want to eat 5 meals a day, if you want to have 2 to 3 skeleton meals and then have 2 to 3 meals that you kind of come up with on a daily basis, if you are comfortable with doing that, then that would be an option for you. Yeah, having those go-to meals really helps because then you get into the rhythm of how long it takes to prepare them, how long it takes you to eat them, how they travel, how they keep, and all that good stuff. So, tip number 2 is bookending. So this is something that I do. I personally bookend my meals. So when I am planning out my food for the day, I always start by entering my first meal of the day and my last meal of the day. Part of why I do this, so with the last meal of the day, if I already have something plugged in that I know I'm going to enjoy, then that kind of ends my day on a good note in terms of food. So you can go to bed, you know, I had a good meal, I'm satisfied, and then you go to bed and you have a restful night. And then another thing with that, with your last meal of the day that you will have to kind of experiment with yourself, is I find that I sleep better if I have carbs in my last meal before I go to sleep. Some people, that disturbs their sleep and they have, you know, not restful sleep, or they have to like get up in the middle of the night, or it just ruins their sleep patterns if they have carbs in their last meal of the day. But I personally sleep better when I have carbs in my last meal of the day. So that's something that you would have to experiment with, but that is also part of why I bookend my meals, because then I know that I have saved some of that carbohydrate allowance for my last meal of the day and helps me have more restful sleep. And then obviously with my first meal of the day, that is my post-workout meal, and which brings me to tip number 3, part of why I bookend. But tip number 3 is putting priority on your peri-workout nutrition. So peri meaning around, so putting priority on your meals that surround your workout. I personally train fasted. I get a lot of questions about this. It is solely out of personal preference. I train better that way, and I just prefer doing things that way. It's not really like it's not a body composition thing. It's not a fat loss thing. It's just that is how I prefer to train. I train better that way. I train harder that way. And that's just my personal preference. But with that, so since I don't have a pre-workout meal, my peri-workout nutrition is solely consistent of my post-workout meal. So I prioritize that. That's my first meal. My post-workout meal is, and I guess this would also apply, this is a general recommendation for a pre-workout meal as well, but my post-workout meal is primarily protein and carb oriented, so that is where I place the emphasis in that meal, not really trying to get any fats in that meal. Obviously there will be some just like fats as a product of the foods that I'm eating, but I'm not like trying to get in a fat source like nuts or oils or anything like that. I don't purposefully put that in my post-workout meal. So that is peri-workout nutrition. Like I said, I train fasted, so my peri-workout nutrition is my post-workout meal, but regardless, put priority there because your training and fueling your training is important, and these 2 meals can have a really large impact on how you feel during your training and how you recover afterwards. Sorry, my camera overheated. That's like the only complaint I have about this camera. So tip number 4, prioritizing necessary supplements and micronutrients. So you guys hear me talk about fish oil all the time, and how I take liquid fish oil. Eat omega-3 fatty acids, which are what fish oil is comprised of, have a lot of benefits. I could speak ad nauseum about the benefits of fish oil, but just briefly, some of those benefits are cardiovascular health, eye health, brain health, body composition, central nervous system health, and a whole host of other benefits. Like the joking phrase is, if you can't fix it with squats or fish oil, you're probably gonna die. But just from a supplementation standpoint, I supplement with it as opposed to just eating fish due to the dosing required. It's more practical to take a supplement instead of trying to eat all of this fish that it would be necessary to eat to meet the dosing requirements. And it's a little bit cheaper because fish is very expensive. So I favor supplementation with that, with fish oil, as opposed to just dietary intake for that reason. Another micronutrient that is important to prioritize is your fiber. Obviously, fiber helps with digestion, helps keep everything moving. It's nature's broom. And if you're not getting enough fiber, you're going to experience a lot of discomfort. You're going to get backed up. You're going to have a bad time. So I prioritize, making food selection choices that are going to hit my fiber requirements, whether that's more fibrous veggies or the quick exchange of oat bran versus just quick oats or regular oats, because oat bran has slightly higher fiber. So especially when I'm in a deficit, that fiber requirement becomes a little bit more difficult to hit just because of lowered food volume and carbohydrate volume as a whole. Whereas if you're in, you know, an off-season or a caloric surplus, then you're going to have an easier time hitting your fiber because you have more food to work with. So I do prioritize things like oat bran and fibrous veggies into my daily diet. And then another micronutrient for priority is iron. Especially females have a hard time hitting their iron requirements pretty often. So that is why I think I've talked about this before, but that's why I also implement things like cream of wheat and cream of rice, and then also ground beef into my diet on the regular to make sure I'm getting enough iron. So making food selections, tip number 4, prioritizing different micronutrients, macronutrients, all that good stuff. So then lastly, tip number 5, keep it simple. So with this, I use an app versus using paper to track my food. When I first started out tracking macros, I did use a pen and paper. This obviously is not the most accurate way to do things, and it also took a lot of time because you have to manually do all the math, you have to manually write out everything and its respective macronutrients and all that. So it took a lot of time to just write things out by hand. If you want to do that, you're more than welcome to. And then another tip for just simplifying the process, if you're a very busy person, keep your simplest meals at your busiest time of the day. That'll save you time in terms of cooking, and it'll also save you time in terms of eating the actual meal itself. So save your fancier meals or your fun meals for when you have more time to prepare them and also more time to enjoy them. That's part of why I save like a really good meal for my last meal as well, is I enjoy it. I have time to sit and cook it and not feel rushed, and it feels nice to sit and enjoy a good meal. So quick meal examples would just be like throwing together, you know, a salad with some lean protein, or just steaming up some vegetables and some rice and, you know, adding in a lean protein source or anything of that nature. And then for simplicity, the less variance you have, and part of why I enjoy like being on just like taking my macros and creating a plan with them. Less variance, Jeff talked about this in the video that I mentioned to you guys before that I will link below, but less variance is gonna lead to less weight fluctuation. It also leaves you less room for error. So especially if you're a busy person, if you're trying to change your food every single day, you just increase your chance to be wrong with what you're plugging in, with the quantities that you're entering and all that stuff. So if things are simple and consistent from day to day, then you just have less room for error. And then also you save more time cooking and shopping. So if you have, you know, your skeleton grocery list that's like your go-to grocery list every week, you're gonna save time in the store, you're gonna save time prepping your meals because you're used to it. And then in terms of shopping, you're also gonna save money because you're not trying to buy like 5 million different kinds of food. You have, you know, your set things that you like, that you enjoy, that you can eat on a daily basis and not get too burnt out of, and you like them. So that's not to say that variety is not important, because one component of a healthy diet is variety. And that's not to say that you can't change things up, but like I keep things, you know, pretty the same until I get tired of something, and if I feel like I'm getting burnt out on a food or a meal, then I'll change it up. So that is about all I have for you guys. Just a quick recap. Tip number 1, create your skeleton meals, your go-to meals, things that you know fit your numbers, that you can eat on a daily basis, that you enjoy, that keep you full and help you hit your micros and your macros. Tip number 2, bookending your meals. So that's just something that I personally do. So I plan out my first meal and my last meal first thing, and then I fill in the rest of the day. Tip number 3, prioritizing your peri-workout nutrition. So for me, that is just my post-workout meal because I train fasted. But if you do eat a pre-workout meal, I would prioritize your pre and your post-workout meals in terms of, you know, making sure you've allotted the necessary carbs and proteins to those meals. And then tip number 4, prioritizing necessary supplements and micronutrients. So we talked about fish oil, the benefits of omega-3s, fiber, and iron. So those are just a few examples of necessary. The omega-3s would be a macronutrient because it's a fat source and fat is a macronutrient, but then fiber and, you know, things like vitamins and minerals would be micronutrients. So prioritizing those. And then tip number 5, just keeping it as simple as possible. So that is it for my little flexible dieting, meal planning, making the most out of your macros video. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this video and would like to hear more talks like this. But other than that, this is the end of day 20, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you later. Love you. Bye.